Nishino wakes up on her alarm, realizing she fell asleep while studying. With a blank face, she goes through her morning routine and prepares to leave for school. Just as she opens the door, she gets a traumatic picture of wild reporters surrounding her. With a sudden gasp, she comes back to reality where only her guard awaits her. As she enters the school building, with a perfect smile, she greets almost everyone in school until she reaches the lockers. Her smile falls as she sees the boy she does not like. She wears the smile again and greets Kagino pleasantly, who misnames her. She keeps up her smile and mentions him using the wrong name. Kagino, the go, who sits beside her in class every day, conveniently mentions forgetting the names of the people not being key figures in his life. Even after her correcting it, he uses the wrong name and leaves after getting on her nerves. As he leaves, she thinks to herself that it's not this issue that she finds annoying, but the fact that even when he is looking at her, it seems like he does not see her and is looking at something beyond her. Nishino is a celebrity loved by everyone, and she seems to be keeping a sweet image. While everyone talks to her, the guy beside her is always lost in his world, ignoring everyone else. Nishino had gotten into a scandal when in middle school. That caused her to almost put a stop to her acting career, but she still fought through. Since then, she decided to put on a mask to not let anyone get through to her. She always puts on a smile, is nice to everyone, and aces in academics to be in the good books of the teachers. She maintains the perfect persona to not be harmed. While Kagino is a mediocre student with no attempts of socializing and reading weird books while wanting more power for God knows what. The bodyguard of Nishino is cornered and attacked by some goons. Nishino keeps trying to contact him, but upon failing to reach him, she decides to walk back home. As she is walking on an empty street, a sudden sound of fast footsteps makes her look around in fear. Her fear is not just in her head, but actually the bad guys who attacked her bodyguard surround her. She tries to run away, but it is in vain. As she is forced to lose consciousness, she sees Kagino on the far end of the street, witnessing it all. Nishino wakes up tied down, and the guys are amused to see her helpless. They mock her for calling danger on herself by walking alone as if they did not have a hand in hurting her bodyguard. One of the guys, an ex-soldier, shuts the other one into waiting for the ransom amount, as they already reached out to her father for the money outside the shed, and then opens his bag to reveal a mask that usually is found on the faces of robbers. The shady guy inside decides to be sick enough to harass Nishino in the meantime. He tries to force himself upon her and calls out to her to have done this before. This traumatizes her even more, as she cries out loud as if begging for mercy. Back in middle school, Nishino was abducted by a stalker of hers who captured some indecent photos of hers and leaked them. This news had almost ruined her life back then. This time, however, someone jumps in from the windows of the roof to the rescue of the poor girl. Out of all the hero names in the world, this guy decided to call himself the stylish thug slayer. The perverted guy is beaten up by Kageno in a minute, but the army guy seems to be impressed by this stylish thug and decides to fight him physically instead of using his gun. The guy was expelled from the army, and since then he has been bored while working with lowlives, kidnapping girls, and living on ransom money. Kageno seems to be interested in fighting soldiers as well. The first hit brings such ecstasy to the soldier that it can be seen why he was expelled from the army. Kageno uses bars to fight back. They are handy as weapons and not questioned by police. The soldier praises his strength and smartness, but the difference in their physiques is still a prominent point. Even though Kageno manages to use his bars into beating the soldier brutally, he can tell that he still lacked power in comparison to him and would never survive if more than one soldier attacked him. Nishino is saved and the news remains away from the media as well. The next day, Nishino continues with her same fake persona until she meets Kageno. He greets her back, and it takes her a moment to realize he named her right this time. She notices him looking at her this time. Deep down, Nishino is sure that it was Kageno that saved her, but life did not give her a chance to ever confirm that. Soon after the incident, Kageno was run over by a truck and killed. In his subconscious, Kageno thinks of how, like every other kid, he wanted to be a hero that saves the world. But unlike others, he did not grow out of this fascination, but only grew more attached to the idea. He kept working hard on his build and on his mind to be strong enough, but no matter how hard he tries, he does not have any unique power to save him from everything. He cannot fight against weapons, bombs, or trucks. He wanted to be someone who remains unharmed even through a nuclear attack. After the strong aspiration, Kageno is seen on a rooftop in a black uniform with a group of people in the same getup as him. They all call Kageno their master and praise his intellect and his powers as they prepare to nail a big hunt. Kageno finally got his long-awaited reincarnation in a world full of magic. With magic in his hands, he can attain what he desires the most, more power. As everyone flies to launch the attack they planned, Kageno grins, ready to risk everything about him in achieving to be neither a hero nor a villain, but someone who exhibits his power from the shadow. He aims to become the eminence in shadow. Sid was reborn in a magical world in the family of Baron Kageno, an aristocrat. This family is known to produce dark knights, the knights who enhance their physical abilities using magic, and everyone has high hopes for the heir. Not him, but his sister Claire, under whose shadow he lives as an average boy. But once again, it's an exterior and not the reality. At night, Sid wanders wearing a classy robe and threatens some goons to show where their looted money is. They don't feel intimidated by a young boy until the young boy uses a slime sword through his robe to behead the person. It takes him a single attack to kill everyone except one person who thinks he is a big shot against Sid. Sid is ready to test whether this person can last for 2 minutes against him. At one attack, Sid starts bleeding due to the sword hitting his chest, or not. He mocks the man by using his slimy bodysuit to make it seem like he got hurt. Sid then finishes his job, deducing the man couldn't last 2 minutes. Sid looks around at the money and treasure left behind when he notices something alive in a cage. There is a hideous monster that's been rotting, but alive. Sid notices the presence of some curse and decides to take it with him as his lab rat. After several random experimentations, Sid manages to lift the curse, and the monster turns back into a young elf girl. Wanting to give a remarkable first performance as the eminence in shadow, Sid sits back and makes up a story about the fairy tale of Diablos being true, and when he died, he left a curse that affected you, but to cover it all up, people decided to call her possessed. She asks, who did this to her? Sid tries to find another lie but fails, so excuses it's not safe to say yet. Upon her insistence, he looks back at a bottle and uses the reference to call the culprits, the cult of Diablos. A group of people are planning to revive the demon Diablos. He then introduces himself as Shadow and asks if she wants to join him in being a shadow and attacking villains from shadows. Since he saved her, she is ready to give her all to him. Sid thinks about how made the whole thing up, and they would just be facing bad guys from the government and authorities. But this girl seems to be ready to follow Sid in whatever he said. Sid gives her the name Alpha and calls their organization the Shadow Garden after Alpha tells him they would need more members to work well. After 3 years, as Sid turns 13, he still acts like a background character who's just an average Dark Knight. He hides the fact that he has mastered all kinds of martial arts and loses while training with Claire, as if he never made any progress. When nobles turn 15, they attend the Midgar Academy for Dark Knights in the royal capital. Claire is leaving for that, but on the day of her leaving, everyone is shocked to see her abducted from her room. As his parents fight over finding Claire, Sid walks away with this one maid, who turns out to be an elf disguised as a servant. As said, Alpha had recruited people for Shadow Garden pretty easily, making them grow in number. Beta reports that Alpha has been looking up the situation. Beta shares that the kidnapper belongs to the cult of Diablos, who thinks Claire is one of the descendants of the 3 heroes who defeated Diablos. Sid thinks of how every normal troublemaker becomes a part of that cult when the girls of Shadow Garden are talking. It's pretty much his fault, though. As she shares the potential hideouts where Claire might be, Sid acts cool and shoots at the map, pointing at one. Unfortunately, he misses the marks and points at a blank space. Like a true devotee, Beta acts all excited and impressed that Shadow found a secret hideout. Viscount Grease, the one who kidnapped Claire, is impressed that she can use magic even when in magic sealing cuffs. She shares what she learned from her brother, who always loses against her, making her enjoy picking on him. Grease mentions the rumor of Sid treating her when she showed signs of possession, but she calls it crap as no way Sid is that talented. Only if she knew. Grease thinks of checking on her brother, but she hurts her hands by breaking the cuffs and threatens to kill him if he touches her. Grease punches her unconsciousness at her bratty attitude. A guard rushes to Grease informing them about intruders. He mentions 7 girls appearing out of nowhere like shadows and dropping their well-qualified men like flies. As Grease reaches there, he finds all his men down. The girls mention knowing all about the cult of Diablos and the revival of the demon. Grease, instead of calling it stupid, surprisingly questions how they know about this secret and attacks them. Alpha easily dodges his attacks and wounds him. Grease takes some pill that increases his magical energy, but he still seems not to be a match for Alpha. She doesn't want to kill him as she wants some answers, but Grease hits his sword to the ground, breaking it, and disappears into some underground path. Alpha tells others he is headed straight to Shadow. Everyone is amazed at how Shadow knew it all and went that way. Shadow is the perfect demonstration of luck being by someone's side. The teenager had lost his way while being carried away and reached exactly where Grease was running. Grease tries to attack him, but Shadow stops him with the tip of his sword. He notices Grease has a good amount of magic and power, but knowing how to use it, so decides to teach him. Teach him by applying the proper techniques on him. As Grease is brutally injured by Shadow's attacks, he tells him that even if he is defeated, Shadow cannot fight the depth of darkness the world has. Instead of being scared, Shadow seems excited to dive deeper into it. Grease swallows the remaining pills and tries to attack Shadow with the increased energy, but cannot even scratch him a little. Grease is stunned to see the immense amount of magical energy Shadow exhibits before killing him. As Grease sees the photo of his daughter, Milia, before losing, he hopes that this boy might be able to defeat darkness. Claire came back home after breaking her chains. She then left after her injuries were healed. Sid also looks forward to going to the royal capital after 2 years, as he might find some real protagonists and villains there. Alpha addresses him, telling him the hour has come, and this is a goodbye from all the girls to him. Sid just stands there confused. Now 15 years old, Sid travels to the royal capital thinking about the time when Alpha and the other girls left him saying the cult is widespread and they need to disperse to fight for their rights. Sid was aware that this was their way of saying that the cult was not real and that they needed to get down with some real goals in life. It was like every other kid. When they grow up, they get rid of their dreams of becoming superheroes and forget about them. With this, he recalls the last moments of his previous life when he was practicing martial arts and kept hitting his head on a rock while chanting the word magic, as if that would bring magic to his life. Maybe his plan worked in a way different from what he expected as he maniacally ran towards the road while doing so, got hit by a truck, and woke up in a world where magic exists. Hence, no matter what happens, he is not going to get rid of his dream of becoming the eminence in Shadow. Sid also enrolled in the Midgar Academy for Dark Knights, just like his sister, but that was the only similarity he portrayed to his sister. While she was an A student, he was the background student who was barely surviving there. His dream life of a background character was being fulfilled since the school society treated them that way. Students like him stayed in cheap downtown apartments, crammed into a single train, and were looked down upon by the elite students. Sid even chose 2 lame friends to blend in the background, Skell and Poe. Classic background character names. Skell and Poe remind Sid of the penalty for the one who scored the last in their previous test, which was Sid. The penalty was to confess love to the most sought-after girl in school and face a brutal rejection. Knowing it is the ultimate representation of an unnecessary character, Sid is excited and prepared to portray the best side character role in this little play. The girl he needs to ask out is the arrogant and beautiful Princess Alexia. Princess Alexia was destined for a political marriage after graduation, which pretty much makes the rejection even more obvious. Sid is ready to give his friends a great performance. In the evening, Skell and Poe are shocked at the great performance as they have assumed he was prepared to be confident, but in reality, a great performance to Sid means acting nervously and blowing up the whole scenario. because that's what background characters do. Sid stutters in front of Alexia and messes up words a whole lot, while sweating and shivering like a coward before confessing to her and bowing down to wait for a brutal rejection. Sid smirks, while bowing down knowing his act was perfect, but the perfection results in Alexia accepting his confession. Now, Mr. Background Character is officially the boyfriend of the princess in school. The next day, Sid is getting looks and comments from the whole school about bagging a girl way out of his league. Even his friends find it bizarre, knowing he stood no chance in front of her. Their comments are disturbed by Alexia's unexpected presence among the lower-class students. Wanting to get dumped, he tries to ruin his image in front of Alexia and the public. He uses the opportunity of Alexia mentioning not being able to finish all the food served to her by grabbing his chopsticks and digging into her food without permission. He then eats messily, giving perfect visuals of a gross, mannerless guy, but is dismayed upon seeing Alexia pass him a smile after his pathetic act. Alexia mentions wanting to take the fencing class together with him, but Sid reminds her they both are in extreme sections of the school. Alexia tells him she put in a good word to get him into Section 1 with her. There goes his mission, dump me already, damn it. He is introduced to the section by the official royal fencing instructor, Xenon. After an introduction, everyone gets into the training. While practicing with Alexia, Sid analyzes her movements as being slow and bland. He realizes she is not copying his level, but is just like that. Someone who perfectly goes by the rules and follows the way of the book. He is impressed because the blandness comes from the fact that she built her skills from scratch. At the end of the class, Alexia leaves after mentioning she hates Sid's fencing style because it feels like looking at herself. We finally get to know the catch for Alexia in this situation. Xenon is a potential suitor for Alexia, but she seems to hate him enough to mess with him into backing out of this proposal. Xenon, however, is ready to see her try. Sid sits by the fountain, rhetorically questioning in a bored manner that Alexia is using him to have Xenon back out as she can control him easily. Alexia agrees with him. Sid expresses his will to back out as he doesn't want any more attention. Alexia drops the bomb, being aware that he confessed to her out of a bet, and this could land him in trouble with the authorities. Skell and Poe ratted him out just by a little threatening. Alexia tells him she just wants him to act along till Xenon backs out. Sid does not think this is going to be as easy as she mentions it to be, and things might not end well for him. Alexia sighs at his blabbering and takes out something that makes Sid's eyes go wide and shiny. She takes out a gold coin and tosses it at him. He arrogantly questions if she thinks she can buy him with money. She confidently agrees. With one leg on the other and resting his face on his hand, Sid sits as if he is the mightiest person ever. Self-esteem goes down the drain as he woofs and jumps like a dog to catch the next coin with his mouth. Turns out his allowance is not enough for his eminence in shadow missions. The two then carry out a whole act of being in a relationship, but it's quite annoying for Alexia that Xenon is silently observing it all, as if he is well aware of this being an act. After wandering in public to make their relationship seem believable, they get into a conversation about why Xenon is not a good choice. The reason turns out he is so perfect with no visible flaws that makes a person seem suspicious. Sid sarcastically thanks her for such a biased analysis, earning a gold coin as a reward. On the way back, the conversation about fencing style strikes up. Sid mentions liking it, even though people refer to her as the fencer ordinaire. Alexia has a memory of hearing her fencing style being liked by her sister after she lost a competition. She hates those words coming from someone who she was always compared to. Sid mentions not being nice enough to care for stuff, but he is into the kind of details that people consider worthless. This sounds offensive to Alexia, making her take out a sword on Sid, but he casually mentions not liking when someone disses something he likes. She then leaves, telling him goodbye. Sid assumes this must be the end of their fake 2-week relationship. The next day, Skell and Poe are trying to console him and talk about how the relationship was when Xenon and his two fellows surround the three. Xenon mentions Alexia not returning to her dorm the previous night and the potential suspect being Sid as he was with her last time. Knowing he is in deep trouble, Sid gets down on his knees as if surrendering to a crime. Alexia wakes up in a jail like space tied to magic restricting cuffs. She finds a monster tied in the space beside her. Her first suspicion goes to Sid being the kidnapper, but it is cleared out when a maniac scientist enters the room chanting about the blood of the princess and excitement. She asks if he kidnapped her, but his focus is solely on getting the princess's blood, as it has the energy to resurrect the demon in the modern day. Knowing resistance or mockery would be even more disastrous, Alexia chooses to remain calm and respond to his weird comments normally. Sid is beaten brutally by the royal knights who think they are torturing him a lot. Sid, however, is just taking the blows while it is not hurting him. The knights are insistent that he accepts the crime he didn't commit. What concerns Sid in this situation is that the knights are playing the role of NPCs perfectly, and he doesn't want them to do it better than him. So, to out-unshine them as he quotes it, he starts screaming, begging, and crying about being innocent and their hits hurting him. He even keeps up the act when stabbed in the thigh brutally. After he is done acting, Sid decides to think one rational thing finally, about how long this is going to go. Alexia sits calmly as the scientist takes her blood samples. She reminds him not to take too much, but he tells her he knows so, as he needs to keep her alive to have endless samples. The scientist suddenly goes berserk while thinking about how he was close to succeeding, but his research lab was closed down just because his subject didn't provide a good response. He then goes to kick the monster beside him, who is a disfigured human, and calls it useless. Alexia's sister Princess Iris has a discussion with Xenon about Sid being a suspect, but not revealing anything even after 5 days of brutal interrogation. Iris doesn't want to blame any student, but still wonders who could have done this. Xenon reminds her that having the status of a princess is enough to expose them to potential danger. As Claire fights other students to face Iris and the knights for messing with her brother, Iris worries about losing the connection with her sister and now having her abducted. Sid is thrown out after days of investigation and finally free to go. As Sid sits on the train thinking about how he can easily fix his wounds, but that wouldn't be the very side characterish thing to do, he notices still being kept an eye upon. As he gets off the train and walks to his hostel, a blonde girl whispers something to him about meeting later. Sid walks into his dorm, greeting none other than his subordinate, Alpha. Turns out, the elves hadn't completely cut off ties with him, but visit him taking turns. She tells him that their organization has been growing in number, but they are still not as strong as the cult yet. Sid is glad that every time these elves visit him, they still play along with his story. At this point, who is the one with the truth? The elves or Sid? In this conversation that's seemingly meaningful to Alpha, but just a game to Sid, she tells him that the cult is the one that abducted Princess Alexia, as the royal blood has a higher concentration of the hero's blood in their veins. After telling him she is going to investigate the matter while he should lay low for a while, Alpha decides to take her leave. The last message she leaves is the presence of Delta in town since she misses Sid. Alexia seems to be in a rough condition, worried about why her sister hasn't found her yet. The monster observes her. Sid rushes, excitedly decorating his room. He is filling it with shiny, expensive material that screams shady yet classy personality. But if you know Sid, it's plain immature. He used his allowance, some payments, and the gold coins to make himself a room that looked cool enough for a leader whenever the members of Shadow Garden visited him. Beta enters Sid's room and receives an impressive image as Sid sits on a huge chair sipping on some expensive wine while looking out the window. She stands behind him as he talks to her in a deeper voice than what he has. Beta briefs him about the situation. They have collected 114 members urgently to help in the royal capital. Sid assumes they hired some extras to play along, not realizing she is serious when she said more than 100 were only the ones who came on short notice. The Shadow Garden has found all the hideouts of the cult and has been tracing the remains of Alexia's magic. She tells Sid about the layout of their plan of action, but Sid hands her a letter excitedly announcing he will be playing the role given to Delta as tonight is when everyone gets to know of them. The knights who messed around with Sid are excited to see him down. They throw Alexia's boot at him and amusedly call it an excuse to arrest him for abducting her. Only this time, Sid is not playing the background character but the role of Shadow. He kills the knights brutally after getting rid of their men on the lookout. The Shadow Garden then starts attacking every hideout of the cult in the capital, creating chaos around for the authorities. Alexia and the monster feel the commotion in the building, thinking it is the knights to save her. The scientist rushes in mad at the knights for coming to her too. He decides to use the prototype he prepared to even have the useless monster become a villain, while Alexia warns him not to do so. The moment he injects the monster with the blood, she transforms into a stronger and bigger monster, and the first thing she does is of course get rid of the one torturing her. The monster then breaks Alexia's chains and leaves. As the monster attacks the city, Alexia takes a sword to get out of the place. Coming out of the dungeon, she is confronted by the real culprit. The culprit is none other than Xenon. He was the one abducting Alexia and hiring the mad scientist. Alexia is more relieved than angry, as her intuition about Xenon being suspicious and worth hating turns out to be correct. This research would guarantee him a seat in the rounds, a place that offers him more money. Xenon wanted Iris for the job but settled for Alexia. This makes her attack him. He laughs at her ordinary fencing not being able to compare to hers. She uses one of Iris's techniques, making Xenon have to show her what real strength is. It takes him one attack to get rid of her sword. He then punches her to the ground. His plan of taking Alexia is halted by the entry of a man clad in pure black. The entry of Shadow from a shadow to hunt the shadows. Xenon refers to Sid as the stray dog that has been snapping at their cult lately, but also mentions that the bases he destroyed were just the weak links of the cult, and currently he is standing in front of one of the core members of the cult. Xenon warns an unbothered Shadow that he is going to kill him to pave his way into the round of knights as the 12th seat. With this dramatic statement, he charges at Shadow to stab him only for a loud noise to occur, but no impact. As the dust dissipates, both Alexia and Xenon are shocked to find Shadow moved from space and now standing in front of Alexia. Shadow mockingly asks where the core member of the cult is that is going to hunt him down. The monster continues to walk around the town, destroying buildings and hunting down the ones trying to hurt it. The soldiers are shocked to see the monster having healing abilities, making it hard to take it down. As the soldiers command them to evacuate the place and go all out on the monster, Iris jumps down from a building, hurting the monster pretty badly. However, the wound is sealed again, but Iris is not the one to back down either. She cuts off the other arm of the monster as well, attacking it until it slams into a building. The monster regenerates the cut-off arm and tries to fight back, angering Iris even more. She goes all out on the monster with her attacks, leaving no space for it to defend. She keeps inflicting wounds on the monster before it can heal any until Alpha appears there standing between the two. She calmly mentions that Iris is making her suffer even more than she is already doing. The monster tries to attack Alpha, but it flies high up in the air and then shoots herself down towards the monster, consoling her that she is going to free her from the pain and sadness she is in. With that, Alpha launches her attack on the monster, but this attack doesn't harm the monster. Instead, it transforms it back into the human she was before. A pendant drops on the floor near the unconscious girl, which Alpha picks up and takes her leave after introducing herself as the Shadow Garden and telling Iris to sit back and enjoy the show. Iris is confused about the events, but puts her priority on finding Alexia. Xenon and Shadow are in serious combat, but Xenon decides to accept the tiniest underestimation he has for Shadow. However, he is mistaken if he thinks he is underestimating Shadow only a little. Even with an increased magical aura that is impressive for Alexia, Xenon does not manage to make Shadow falter. Instead, he's thrown down by Shadow, earning another mock about his future round's obsession. Pressed by his words, Xenon starts attacking Shadow violently, but it is of no use as Shadow keeps defending himself with a fighting technique that's referred to as bland and ordinary. Alexia notices how the fencing skills match hers. This technique and its smoothness make Alexia appreciate her fencing for the first time in her life. She now understands that Iris's praise for Alexia's fencing was genuine. The same ordinary fencing is capable of inflicting a wound at Xenon. Alexia is shocked to hear about this Shadow Garden and some cult of Diablos. Xenon tries to show off his power by taking out some pills that can give someone power so immense that they can even die of the overwhelming feeling, but he is strong enough to maintain this strength. A transformed Xenon, referring to himself as the Third Awakened, prepared to fight Shadow, who seems bored of all the drama. As Xenon attacks Shadow, he calls it unsightly and blasphemy for calling himself the All-Powerful. Shadow decides to give him a show of what all-powerful is by throwing punches at Xenon and backing him up until he loses balance and falls. He breaks the bottle of pills, humiliating Xenon for calling himself powerful with borrowed strength. All of a sudden, a cylindrical shield is created in a radius around the two. Xenon questions it, so Shadow decides to narrate the story of a guy who trained hard to be strong enough to withstand a nuclear bomb, but he couldn't do so. Hence, he decided if he could not withstand an atomic bomb, he should choose to become one. This statement is haunting enough for Xenon, but before he can do anything, Shadow casts his spell, causing an explosion huge enough that its impact covers a good amount of town and can be seen by everyone. The members of Shadow Garden spread around the entire town are fascinated by the view, while the rest of the town worries. Iris runs towards the ruins, worrying about Alexia. After the explosion, Alexia stands there unharmed by it and picks up the sword nearby. She starts attempting her usual fencing moves, probably accepting her love for her technique when Iris finally finds her and hugs her. After a long time, Alexia finally reciprocates Iris's feelings towards her. The next day, Alexia and Sid have a chat about there being more stuff to this plot than what meets the eye, but for the world, this case has been closed for good. Sid, maintaining his background character, sounds bored about it and is about to take his leave when Alexia nervously calls him out and thanks him for praising her fencing style back then. She mentions him not being the reason she likes it now, which is a detail Sid believes was unnecessary for him. Alexia chuckles at that and stops him from leaving again, wanting to keep up the relationship act for a while, even if Xenon has disappeared. Sid smiles beautifully at her and tells her he'll pass in the most enthusiastic way. Alexia also breaks out into an equally sweet smile before we get to witness a great amount of blood splashed onto the wall of the building. Sid refers to it as one of the greatest mysteries of school when people witness so much blood, but nobody is nearby. The members of Shadow Garden feel good after witnessing their boss's show the previous day. After the usual briefing, they get to the issue of someone pretending to be Shadow Garden. They decide to hunt them down no matter how well they hide their tracks. Iris talks to Glenn and Marco about not being able to trust anyone as they were unaware that one of their most renowned instructors belonged to a cult whose work they are still unaware of. She decides to create an investigation team, including the two in the meeting as the sole trusted members for Iris. They only have one clue for now, and they don't even know how that thing works. A girl walks into the school with a bunch of books in her hand, one of which seems to have some information about the clue Iris has. The girl bumps into a bloody Sid, who is ranting about Alexia being more of a killing machine than a princess. Sid asks the girl if she is fine while helping her out. Mysterious murder under the name of Shadow Garden is exactly what Alpha was previously talking about. One of these people claiming to be of Shadow Garden killed a person while chanting "I am Shadow Garden" mindlessly. After failing to get any details about the broken relationship between Sid and Alexia, Skeel and Poe express their wish of wanting to visit this fancy place that sells chocolates. Sid agrees to accompany them since he wants to know how the chocolate of this world tastes. Iris assigns Sherry Barnett, the girl who previously bumped into Sid, to work on the details of the artifact that was found in the ruins of one of the bases of the Cult of Diablos. Sherry wonders why they'd assign her, as she is still a student, but even as an undergrad, her skills surpass many professional researchers. Her father encourages her to take the job as he has confidence in her, not only as a father, but also as an authoritative figure in the Midgar Academy. Iris decided to assign the Crimson Knights to protect Sherry and work with her. The Crimson Knights are the ones Iris shortlisted as the definitive loyal knights. Alexia also expresses her wish to work on this, as she wants to know what is happening around her. Even though reluctant, Iris gives in to her determination. As the three clowns stand outside the chocolate shop, they get worried about wanting to get into the dorm by curfew when Poe mentions a killer lurking around the town at night. As they stand in front of the window of the shop observing their decor, the lady from before approaches Sid about filling out a survey. Skeel and Poe wish to do so, but she only wants one person. Sid follows the lady inside, but she doesn't seem to stop anywhere. The two keep going inside until they finally reach a large hall where a bunch of women are bowed down in respect of City. As expected, the woman was escorting Sid towards Shadow Garden. Gamma stands on the stage where the throne lies, smiling towards Sid. Sid is amazed to know this business belongs to Gamma, and she became filthy rich just by using the knowledge he gave her. Even so, he does not consider her combative strong. The reason is visualized the next moment when Gamma classily trips down the stairs of the stage and yet welcomes Sid with a bloody nose. As Sid sits on the throne, he loves the feeling of all the members either bowing down or looking up to him. He truly has become the eminence in shadow. As a reward for this, he illuminates a purple light that falls beautifully on everyone like a fountain. Gamma is fascinated by the sight as it reminds her of the light when she was saved by Sid. These two are the memories she'll always cherish. Acting all bossy, he asks if Gamma's business is earning her a good profit, but not in his 2 lifetimes. He expects her to tell him that the business has numerous franchises in all big cities inside and outside of the kingdom, and they have 1 billion Zen at their immediate disposal. Sid is lucky he is sitting at a distance from them. He cannot believe Gamma used the random knowledge he shared with her to build this good business. Briefing about the killer, Gamma assures Sid that they will find the culprit real soon. Sid suddenly recalls his blood ruthlessly splashed on the school wall just to reject Alexia. He tells them he might have an idea about who it is. The girls praise his intelligence, unaware of how good his flukes are. He is introduced to Nu, the girl who escorted him, about how her skills are acknowledged by Alpha as well, so she will certainly serve as a good asset. Sid suddenly turns to Gamma, asking her to give them 3 of their cheapest chocolates, while discreetly using his shadow manipulation skills to steal a coin that is already considered his by the team. Poor Sid. Gamma offers nicely to give him the best chocolates for free. At night, the 3 run to reach the dorm before the curfew when Sid feels a commotion in an alley nearby. He can tell swords are being used, but he can't tell Skill and Poe about it, so he uses the best excuse to ever exist. He starts shaking and falls, holding his stomach and telling them that he needs to take a dump immediately, as he cannot control it anymore. His friends are shocked yet proud of their friend for keeping his priorities straight. They appreciate Sid's acceptance of taking a dump in public. Sid screams for them to go as he cannot take it anymore, while the two scream with tears of pride, telling him they'll never forget him and his sacrifice to dignity, nor will they tell anyone about it. As the two run, Sid turns towards the alley. He thinks the culprit is Alexia, who has finally lost her mind. He thinks to himself about respecting her life choices, but he cannot forgive her for using their name. His whole self-speech goes to waste after he witnesses what's going on in the alley. Alexia is there, but she is the one fighting the imposter rather than being one. Alexia is fighting one of the imposters. She manages to defeat him, but his fellows arrive. Alexia is doing good until her arm receives an injury, slowing her down and cornering her. Before she can get hurt, Shadow arrives in the middle of the opponents and saves her. The imposters flee after Shadow warns about not sparing them for using their name. Alexia tries talking to Shadow, but he tells her to keep out of it. As the imposters stand on a roof thinking they successfully got away, Shadow appears there, killing one of the two. Nu praises her boss about his skills, telling him to leave this one to her to get information out. Shadow leaves the imposter at her mercy, but Nu is sure to clear out that she is not as merciful as Shadow, and that trying to attack her was the mistake of this imposter. A few people are casually talking about their fellows being caught and killed. They ask some gaunt knight about the next step, but he seems to have found the location of the item they are seeking. Alexia and Iris discuss the murders not being the cause of Shadow Garden. Alexia asks who the real enemy is between Shadow Garden and Cult of Diablos, but Iris thinks they both are villains for creating havoc in her kingdom. The next day, everyone knew about Sid publicly crapping his pants. His best friends sure know about keeping secrets. Sid chooses to ignore this, and the three focus on Operation Gift Giver. After Skeel and Poe are brutally rejected and probably even beaten up, Sid, who is already disinterested in himself, decides to give the chocolates to the first girl he sees. He gets up from his desk in the library and passes by Sherry, who just came there. He handed her the box and left without much. Sherry is confused about this. At home, her father is happy that someone likes her and gives her chocolates. He wants her to work hard, but also live her student life normally. Even though adopted, his love for Sherry is genuine, and he is confident that she will find an answer to the artifact. Sherry cannot help but think about Sid with every bite of the chocolate given to her by him. On the other hand, Sid is walking in school while holding a paper in his hand when he asks if it is Nu out of nowhere. The girl walking right behind him replies in affirmative, telling him she wore the uniform to blend in. As the two sit on a bench, Nu tells him about not being able to get information from that man since he was brainwashed completely. Sid keeps nodding and pretending to listen while thinking about how his friends entered him in the fencing tournament just because they were injured and couldn't do so. Nu tells him that the cult has been using brainwashing techniques for a long time, and the name of Shadow Garden must have been used to lure them out. Sid mentions not wanting to do that, which Nu thinks is about showing up to the cult, but we are pretty sure he is talking about a fencing tournament. Nu then mentioned the appearance of the name First Child in the royal capital, Rex, in the game of Betrayal. The name Child is the one of his maintain their sense of self, so publicly showing him means the cult has a purpose in their mind. Sid gets into deep thought talking about not laying out the goal, but there being ways to deal with it. He decides to think further and tells Na he will see her later. Na is amazed by her boss's devotion in wanting to deal with the issue while we still aren't sure if he was talking about the cult or the fencing tournament. Probably the tournament. In the fencing tournament, Claire is doing pretty well, and students are busy placing bets on the players when one of the awaited participants shows up. No, not the background character Sid, but Miss Rose Oriana, who coincidentally has a match with none other than Sid E. Rose Oriana is a princess, the president of the student council, and one of the renowned swordsmen. There is no perfect opportunity for Sid to show his 48 mastered techniques. As the duel begins, Sid and Rose attack each other, but just before her sword can touch him, he adds something to his mouth. The next moment, Sid is thrown far away with blood flooding out of his mouth. By 48 mastered techniques, he meant techniques to act like a failure that a perfect background character is. Before Rose could be announced a winner, he says he still can fight. He keeps on fighting till he can display many of his moves until Rose gets frustrated with why he is not giving up. So the referee-like guy saves Sid and announces Rose as a winner, even though Sid still wants to show off more of his loser moves. This earns Sid a sense of respect for Rose for his determination. Sid walks out with his head completely wrapped with bandages, One can say he is mimicking a mummy. Sherry suddenly calls him out, asking if he is doing fine and wanting to talk to him. As the two sit in the cafe, she hands him some handmade cookies as a thank you gesture after praising his determination in the tournament. Confused as to why she'd thank him for the determination, Sid takes the cookies. She then asks for wanting to be friends first, to which Sid finds no issue either. The guy has absolutely no clue what Sherry is talking about, whereas Sherry excitedly calls out to her father to finally make a friend. Sid is a little surprised to see the assistant principal as her father. Since this could bring him unnecessary attention, Sid tries to use the excuse of his injuries to get some distance between the two. But the main question in all situations remains: how is Sid drinking tea with his mouth all bandaged up? In the evening, Sherry still cannot stop thinking about Sid and wonders if she should visit him with the excuse of wanting to know about his health. She is thinking if it's too weird to do between friends when she recalls seeing Sid a lot with Alexia as if the two were dating. Confused, she decides to do something. Alexia sits in her room, enjoying her black coffee. A knock on the door disturbs her. She opens it to see Sherry standing there nervously. Sherry introduces herself and is invited in by Alexia. Alexia is a little weirded out to see Sherry put in a lot of sugar and milk in her coffee. Alexia asks if she can discuss the artifact, but Sherry refuses. Alexia thinks then it must be about the student council election schedule, but this isn't it either. Sherry nervously asks if Alexia is involved with someone since rumors said she was dating Sid. Alexia tells her she isn't dating Sid, and never was, as it was just an act. But before she can even complete her sentence, Sherry excitedly starts her rant about how relieved she is that Sid is not with anyone, as she just became friends with Sid and was concerned about this. Sherry walks out, not at all seeing the rage building inside Alexia with every word that Sherry has said. As soon as Sherry leaves, a cup loses its life. Sid is sitting in class after his rest leaves when Rose enters the student council elections. The shielded man and his subordinates who've been pretending to be Shadow Garden appear under the school, and a sphere figure, looking like an eye, is activated. This creates a shield around the school, which is only noticed by Sid initially. Alexia, who's also walking into school, notices the gate closed and finds it weird. Looking closely, she finds a guard's bloody arm and realizes something is wrong. Inside the school, Sid checks and realizes that whatever happened has stopped magic from being used here. Sid suddenly feels the presence of intruders, realizing they are about to enter his class. The black uniformed and masked guys appear to be claiming his Shadow Garden, announcing taking over the school. Rose warns them and tries to use her magic only to realize it can't be worked here. One of the bad guys steps forward to hurt Rose when Sid comes running and screaming and pushes Rose away. The sword cuts through his body, creating a pool of blood as he falls. Sid, a background character, is in the moment every student daydreams of when in school. What will they do if their school is under attack? So, when the magic seal appears and the intruders barge into their classroom, Sid knows he needs to make the best out of this situation. The perfect plot needs to be that an unknown background character turns out to be the life savior of some main character and dies first in the chaos. This is exactly what happened when Rose was under attack. Sid rushed not to save her, but to become the perfect sacrifice a background character is. Rose is crushed to see someone go this far for her sake. While Sid is content about his death, Rose assumes he did this because he cared for her, and it was his love and respect for her that he kept fighting in the tournament and now sacrificed his life for her. Rose seems to now have feelings for the guy presumably dead. After all the students are gathered in the assembly hall, Sid lifts his arm and hits his heart multiple times, breaking something like a shield. He then wakes up breathing heavily after surviving his dangerous technique of 10-minute death. He had controlled the flow of blood in his body to keep his brain alive, even for the time his heart stopped. Science needs to learn from our bro. Sid then uses his magic in thin threads, as complete magic is obstructed by those people. Sherry is working on her study, unaware of the events occurring in the rest of the school. Suddenly, the window to her room breaks with the entry of Rex, who tries to refer to himself as Shadow Garden, only to forget if it is Garden or Guardian. I think this alone could serve as a reason for our devoted Sid to kill him. Before Rex could attack her, Glenn and Marco appeared to her rescue. The two are still fighting pretty well, even without the use of magic. Marco gives Sherry an opening to run while they fight the enemies. Sid stands on the rooftop analyzing the situation of the terrorists and the knights, while the Shadow in the situation stands in secret observing them all. However, the main concern of Mr. Shadow is the lack of aesthetics these people have for wearing all black in the middle of the day. This is probably why Sid decides to wreak havoc secretly while waiting for his grand entry once the night falls. He starts killing the terrorists by making small arrows out of his magic. As all this happens, Sherry runs around the school corridors trying to sneak away from the bad guys. Sherry, however, is unaware that she is miserable at hiding from anyone and is walking right in the hands of the enemy. This would have happened if a shadow wasn't working during broad daylight. Sid then jumps down the building just for the sake of his persona. Sid is analyzing the situation from afar and killing any enemy that comes closer to Sherry. By any enemy, it is every enemy that is present in whichever place Sherry goes to, because being highly qualified in research does not assure qualification in hide and seek. Even her crawling away from enemies is serving as giving in to them, while Sherry thinks it is just her imagination that someone is watching her. Everyone is watching you, Sherry. While crawling up the stairs, her slipper makes her lose balance and fall back. Sid appears there on time, saving her doom. He tells her not to try hiding, not to think too much, and to get rid of those noisy slippers if she does not want to get caught. It seems like the girl needs a lot of learning on how to sneak around, and a shadow is the perfect teacher one could have for that. The two then walk to her father's office because she knows there must be some hint about how the magic was sealed off. As she surfs around, Sid thinks of the flaws in the storyline, as they do have a clumsy main character, but there is still no sidekick there. Sherry finds the clue to the red eye, the eye of avarice, that absorbs any magic that is not taught to it in memory. So, the intruders have their magic in their memory, but no one else does. The only flaw is that the eye can only absorb magic till a certain amount, after which it explodes. Sherry then shares that the artifact she has is the control unit of the Eye of Avarice. The two were to be used together as a storage unit to stop the Eye of Avarice from blasting. Sherry tells him that if they activate the artifact in the vicinity of the Eye of Avarice, they could stop it from functioning. Sid offers to bring her supplies from her study. Rex is threatened by the masked man to take the situation seriously. Rex leaves after revealing someone killing most of the knights, insinuating that the actual Shadow Garden is here. The armored guy is sure he can survive against them and reach the round of knights in the cult. As Rex walks with his guards, they disappear one after the other. Rex looks around only to get punched by a smiling Sid. Rex builds a net around himself that won't let him enter it without notice, but all his threats are empty as Sid is standing right behind him. Sid kicks him into a room where all his fellows lie defeated. His confusion and shock aren't answered, as he is also added to the bunch of defeated ones by Sid, who is currently hanging upside down. New wanders into the study looking at Marco as if she knows him. It turns out he was her fiancé. Sid appears there and does not care what she does with him, but she decides to spare him this time since he already lies unconscious. New updates him that Shadow Garden is around the school and waiting for how he commands them. However, only Gamma is the person present who can use magic even inside the shield. The only problem is that these fights aren't her forte. Sid hears her out only to ask her about tweezers. As he collects the required stuff, he tells Na about the artifact and tunes it. Na is impressed yet again by Shadow, unaware of the work being done by Sherry and him just being there as a support. As the day proceeds, everyone tries and plans on their level to handle this situation of students being held hostage. As every soldier and knight worries about the hostages and the possibility of there being another spy in school, Sid patiently waits for Sherry to figure out the operation of the artifact. After hours of hard work, Sherry finally succeeds in operating the artifact correctly. Now all she needs to do is get near the Eye of Avarice and remove the magic seal. Sherry is determined to save her father, so she uses the tunnel behind the bookshelf in his office to head to the auditorium. Before leaving, Sherry recalls how her mother was brutally murdered by an unknown person, and the man she now calls her father was a friend of her mother. So he decided to take Sherry to stay with him. He loved her like a real father and always supported her, so she was not going to lose a parent once again. Sid tells Sherry to go ahead since his little help is done here. In the auditorium, Rose worries that there is no chance they can fight against these terrorists with the magic seal on. A sudden gunshot scares everyone as the enemies start to randomly shoot students for their amusement. Even though terrorized by the gunshot sounds and the situation, Sherry finally finds a good place from where she spots the Eye of Avarice in the hands of the armored man. She throws the artifact, and as they had deduced, it manages to control the eye and remove the magic seal. Rose notices the change right on time and attacks some of the opponents. On her cue of the seal being removed, everyone charges at the enemies, creating a war-like situation in a school auditorium. The armored man walks towards the artifact after ordering his people to kill the students. Rose fights hard, wanting to reach the armored man before she runs out of energy, but opponents keep coming in her way. She thinks of wanting to keep fighting while carrying on the legacy of Sid's love and sacrifice for her. Her thought process is interrupted by the glass on the ceiling of the auditorium breaking, giving a grand entrance to none other than our very own Shadow. Shadow smirks at Rose, praising her fight, but now it is their job to continue. With this, the whole auditorium is surrounded out of nowhere by the Shadow Garden, who announce them being Shadow Garden in sync, which makes them seem more like a cult than the cult they are chasing. As the Shadow Garden takes over the fight, Rose reluctantly focuses on getting the students to safety, so asks everyone to evacuate the premises with the injured ones. The decision turns out to be pretty good, as a few moments later, the whole school is on fire due to the messing around with gas pipelines by the armored man. It turns out to be the doing of the armored man, while Sherry, who is looking around for her father, is also confused and trapped. As the fire strikes the whole school, the Knights are worried about the students, only to find them all safe and outside already. Rose informs Iris about some Shadow Garden getting rid of all the terrorists. As they discuss who exactly Shadow Garden could be, Alpha is informed about the necessary articles being retrieved already. Sherry looks around for her father while the armored man is in her office, burning down some books and articles until Sid asks what his principal Lutheran is doing in that costume. He is surprised that Sid found out it was him and asks what gave it away, but Sid never explains the logic behind his figuring it out. Sid focuses on asking why he did it all, since he doesn't seem like the person for evil. Lutheran explains that after he reached the peak of his era as a swordsman, his disease interrupted him from progressing further. Upon looking for cures, he found out about the artifact that can help him cure the disease, the artifact upon which Sherry's mother was working. He went along with her pretty well, and things were going fine until she told him that the Eye of Avarice was too dangerous for use and its work should not be revealed to anyone. Lutheran wanted the device to himself, so he stabbed her heart and twisted the knife, brutally murdering her. Since Sherry was unaware, he did that. So basically, he was only with Sherry because he wanted to use her. Sid tells her he isn't much bothered about what happens to people, but he is gonna fight him nevertheless. After the chit-chat, Sid faces Lutheran, who tells him it was a nice chat before taking a millisecond to cut the chest of Sid and throw him out of the window. Lutheran turns to walk away, only to be stopped by the voice of none other than Shadow. Lutheran decides to use the artifact, combined with the device, to exhibit its true power. The device is placed in his chest, granting him more powers than he originally had. While bragging about being more powerful and not showing any mercy, he attacks Shadow only for him to defend himself. In the next attack, Shadow dodges him and wounds his shoulder without him even realizing that. He mocks Lutheran for calling himself powerful if that is all he can do. Lutheran tries to fight back, sure that Shadow can never be as powerful. He also mentions making things look like Shadow Garden is to be blamed for all the situations that have been occurring, making them look like traitors. Shadow reminds him this is not at all what he cares about. If he wanted to be considered a hero, he'd have that done, but he doesn't care about what is thought about Shadow Garden. He just wants to stick to his agenda of fighting from the shadows while being neither entirely good nor entirely evil. He then ends it all by killing Lutheran the same way he killed Sherry's mother. As Shadow is walking away, Sherry stands there traumatized to have witnessed the murder of her parents yet again. As she cries to his body, Shadow decides it is better she does not know the reality about Lutheran. Alpha and the rest of the members are amazed by Shadow's not caring about being blamed and decide they should also work for what their jobs are. In school, Sherry meets Sid, thanking him for his help and support and informing him about going to study abroad since she doesn't have any reason left to stay here. She also mentions having some secret aims for her future. The two parts of this note. Due to the damage to the school, the summer break students started a little early, but having nothing to do, Sid decided to stay in the empty dorms. He didn't have much to do there either, except for avoiding Alexia by sticking to the ceiling every time she visited. His boredom ends when he receives a letter from Alpha talking about a visit to the sacred land, Lindworm, to dig out some ancient memories. The Shadow Garden is invested in working hard for their Lord Shadow and everything related to him. They seem to be deeply infatuated by Shadow for saving their previously doomed life and giving them new hope. Shadow walks up to a tunnel where a guy who seems to be the villain starts exaggeratedly narrating his features, praising his personality, his physical appearance, his dress, and his aura, as if writing about his crush instead of his enemy. Shadow appears there with his signature line and how he is apologetic for being late to save his beautiful young elf, Beta. He is about to speak further, but words get stuck in his throat until a hand slams on the paper that has the writing of this scene on it. The scenario did not just feel unrealistic, it was just a fiction from Beta's mind. She seems to have been writing a fan fiction based on her and Shadow. The next day, Beta and Epsilon get into banter about who Shadow notices more between them, while everyone else ignores them, as if it is something usual that occurs. Nu intervenes between the two about receiving a directive from Alpha. Alexia and Iris visit the most popular shopping place in the capital. They have everything that is on trend, and Alexia seems to like it around, while Iris reminds her she is going to the sacred land as a special guest for the goddess's trial. Alexia tries out different hats while thinking of getting some secrets about corruption and missing orphans out from the higher-ups while she chats there. Iris wonders if she should have told Alexia about the investigation or not. Gamma appears there, introducing herself as Luna, the president of this establishment. While enjoying the food she served them, Alexia tells Gamma to send it to her dorm. Iris reminds her they are there to prepare for her trip, which makes Gamma ask if she is traveling. Alexia tells her she will be going to Sacred Land, which is interesting information for Gamma. After the school was out of danger, Rose rushed to where the injured students were being treated. After searching around, she was relieved to see Sid alive, wrapped around in bandages like a mummy. Sid looked at her and closed his eyes, saying he was dead as if he knew what was coming for him. Rose walks up to him, glad that he is alive, reasoning it is a miracle due to his love and sacrifice. She tells him that since she gave her life back to her, she will be giving her heart to him. As poetic as this sounds, Sid was nowhere near that with his intentions. That being said, the background character is now stuck dating yet another princess. Rose and Sid travel together to the sacred land in an elite cubicle on the train. While Rose sits there hugging Sid and talking about destiny, choosing him for her, Sid sits beside her with the blankest face possible. She tells him that they'll reach each other in 2 days, so they should relax. Sid, who just wants some space, thinks of how he could just sprint and reach the land in no time. But he chose to use the economy class train to maintain his background character aura. That was a mistake since Rose found him at the station and practically forced him to travel with her. Rose holds his hand and starts her rant about their relationship and the future of it, while Sid tries to free his hand thinking about why Alpha summoned him there. The most popular religion here is that of divine teachings, where people worship the goddess Beatrix. Rose rants that if he succeeds in the goddess's trial, then she can speak to her father about his bravery and have a future with him. Sid seems not to care about any of that, well aware that Rose is conveniently trying to convert him to his religion in the manipulation of the love she has for him. Sid still only wishes for some space at the moment. The princesses of this world seem clingy. As the two finally reach the land of Lindworm and wander around the streets, Rose tells him that the legend says this is the place where Oliver cut the left arm of the demon Diablos, and this is the land where Diablos was sealed away. Rose is excited to see her favorite author Natsume signing her books in town, and wants to go get one signed too. Sid looks at the books of this popular author and finds evident plagiarism, as the books are named after popular stories of his previous world. Made-up names of Cinderella, Dragon Ball Z, One Piece, and whatnot. Sid also gets into line to see if there is someone else who has been reincarnated from his world, only to be extremely disappointed upon seeing Beta sitting there as author Natsume. Rose and Sid sit in a cafe as she shows him her personalized autograph. Upon opening his, both are surprised to find something written in ancient letters. Rose tries to read it till it clicks to Sid that this must be some message from Shadow Garden, so he says that she must have written it because it is cool. Alpha walks up to a building questioning why this hero, Oliver, chose to hide the place they refer to as the Sanctuary. She then addresses the dead body of Drake, wondering who killed him, as she would have loved to get some answers from him. Sid observes the land from a high building, excited to see the chaos unfold under his eyes. He later jumps down an alley, dodging the attack of a stranger. He is then cut down by 3 sword strikes at once, which is something that is expected of Epsilon, the Precise. In extreme seriousness, Sid narrates that even with his aim in life being clear, he still has likes and dislikes that are deemed unnecessary by people of purpose. One such liking of his includes a hot spring. So, when he enters the hot spring casually, ready to enjoy the peace, there is already an existence present there. Alexia stares at him dumbfounded and takes a moment to question how he survived, as she hurt him pretty bad when she was mad. Sid mocks her concern after trying to kill him. The two then get into a conversation about why they are here. Sid mentions a friend inviting him there for some event, which must be the goddess's trial since it's a hot topic these days. Alexia is surprised that this guy came all the way to attend an event he doesn't even know about. It is an annual event in which the door of the sanctuary is opened. The fighting ritual has the ghosts of ancient people coming out of the sanctuary and fighting the participants. Alexia tells him he is late if he intends to participate, but Sid has no such intention. Alexia proceeds to narrate how only a few warriors are deemed worthy by the spirits to participate. Alexia also mentions being a guest at that trial, but of course, she has to brag about the fact that she is not there to participate but in an investigation. The Archbishop of the cathedral had been murdered, and she was here to investigate him due to the unsavory rumors about him. She stops bragging as this information has not yet been made public. As the trial starts, Sid sits in the audience ready to just observe the trial, whereas Alexia and Rose are important guests in the event. As the event is introduced, Alexia glares at the acting Bishop Jack, who was hosting because of the meeting they had a while back. He had decided to conceal the audit by not allowing Alexia to investigate the matter, wanting the matters of the church to be dealt with by the church only. He tells her he would personally write to the king about it, so she does not need to intervene in the smooth running of the trial and sit back and enjoy. Since this attitude of Jack is highly suspicious, Alexia wants to get back to his father and order the audit again under the Crimson Knights. But she is also aware that all the evidence will be wiped off if she leaves the place. The matter becomes conflicting for her, as if she goes back. The crime will become foolproof, and if she investigates on her own, the relations between the royal kingdom and divine teachings will be affected. Her thoughts of not liking Jack are interrupted by another subject she dislikes. This is Natsume, the writer, who we know as Beta from Shadow Garden. Alexia finds her sudden fame and finesse in writing too unrealistic and wonders how that happened. Beta suddenly cuts off praise from the crowd to Alexia and side-eyes her, clearly showing the dislike is well reciprocated. While Alexia finds her fame suspicious, Beta doesn't like Alexia due to her clinging to Sid and forcing a relationship with him while she is the one who is compatible with Sid. Alexia stomps on Beta's foot and keeps pressing despite her dislike. Rose stands behind them, gracefully waving at her followers. As the sanctuary is opened and the trials begin, Sid sips on his drink, bored of how incapable these people are. He feels a little on edge, wanting to show them what skills and power are, but decides to stick to his worthless background character. After being bored the whole day seeing people lose to the spirits, he awaits the event to be over. The next person is announced, and Sid thinks about how boring and background character-y that name is. Poor guy is so invested in being a background character that it took him longer than others to realize his name was being announced. Sid wonders what to do if he goes out to fight and some spirit worthy of his match pops up. Everyone will get suspicious, and if he runs away, he'll be expelled from the academy, becoming a disgrace to his sister. So, he decides to go for the third best option, confusing everyone. A glow of light goes off in the sky to make a classy entry of none other than Shadow. Everyone is confused as Shadow appears in the middle of the stadium. Jack is amused that Shadow is going to be humiliated after claiming to be so strong. But to literally everyone's shock, his sanctuary call is answered by the Witch of Calamity, Aurora. She's been known by few to have rained chaos and destruction on the world. Jack thinks Shadow is doomed now, but Alexia points out that Aurora was chosen as a compatible opponent by the goddess, which means Shadow's powers match the one who destroyed the world. Shadow and Aurora face each other with content smiles on their faces. The two have a common ground of taking battles as a conversation, fighting with patience, calmness, yet chaos. Aurora dances on her feet, suddenly creating an intricate pattern of attacks that will hurt Shadow if he touches them, but to everyone's dismay, not even a single attack managed to touch Shadow. After dodging around for a while, Shadow thinks of how he enjoyed the little conversation with Aurora, whom he referred to as Violet due to her eyes. But he bids her goodbye and launches his first and final attack, making the patterns as well as the artist disappear. In simpler terms, it is something that nobody can believe. Shadow won against the spirit of the Witch of Calamity. Sid takes his dramatic leave to increase the aura of confusion. Behind him, the sanctuary gate suddenly opened, showing Sid passed the goddess's trial and got accepted. Sid stands afar, amused at the mysterious aura he created back in the stadium. He is sure that everyone must have forgotten about the background character Sid. His amusement is disturbed by a gate appearing to the sanctuary, but being the unbothered person he is, Sid jumps away at different locations to avoid the door, but it keeps following his trail. Sid looks at it for a moment and decides to give it a look rather than letting it follow him to his inn. The doors open in the stadium as well. Bishop Jack Nelson narrates to the princesses about this not happening before and wants everyone out of the stadium and away from it. The open gate. A little commotion makes them look back, only to find Shadow Garden has taken over the entire stadium and gotten rid of the guards without a noise. Alpha tells the princess to not meddle in something that is not their concern and proceeds to enter the sanctuary with Delta. Epsilon interacts with Nelson about coming with him into the sanctuary. He tells them they are not going to be able to do anything there, but Epsilon mentions focusing on what they find in there. Alexia looks at Alpha, recalling her outsmarting Iris, while Beta pretends to be scared and trapped, making her fellows cringe at her dramatics. Nelson calls one of his smartest guards to come kill Epsilon, but it only takes her mere attacks to get rid of him. The Shadow Garden takes Beta and Nelson with them into the sanctuary, asking the princesses to not enter, but Alexia jumps into the door when it is closing, making Rose follow too at the last moment. Alpha sighs at Alexia, coming in but lets it go, thinking they should know some facts too. As they walk in the sanctuary, the real truth about the past is buried. They come across the statue of the hero Oliver, which is very different than what was shown to the world. Alpha mentions having a grasp of the truth behind the cult of Diablos and the fact that hero Oliver is a girl whose face closely resembles none other than Alpha herself. Nelson mentions Alpha being a possessed elf, but incompatible, so she should have been dead. Epsilon points out that Nelson knows about the true history and about them being tortured with the excuse of being possessed. Alpha mentions knowing the truth behind who they call possessed as well, and exposing the truth behind the church's saint play. Rose is confused about all this, to which Alpha responds that there may be more to the agenda of the cult than just bringing back the demon Diablos, so they should go see the truth with their own eyes. Alpha then turns away and opens a door, which Nelson is surprised she managed to do. She tells them there was once a huge battle here, leading to the loss of many lives, and then the memories of the battle and the grudges were sealed away and trapped here. Alpha walks inside to start a journey into ancient memories. Sid walks into a white room where Aurora is sitting. He greets her nicely, and she tells him that even though her memories are vague, she thinks he is the strongest person she ever fought with. Sid asks how to leave there since she just fought with him, but Aurora tells him she never recalls leaving. She just woke up and was there. Sid decides to go back the way he came from to find a way out, but Aurora stops him, making him notice she is trapped in a straitjacket and would like to be free. Sid frees her, which she mentions maybe after 1,000 years. She tells Sid they can work together as she knows that this sanctuary is a memory prison built on ancient battles, and if they reach its magical core and destroy it, she will be free. Sid asks if it's only her who will be free. She tells him she'd like to think that, but everything will disappear once the core is destroyed, so he'll be able to leave too. She tells Sid that they are close to the core since their magic is being absorbed. But Sid does not worry since he can break a few things with his physical strength. Aurora jokes about being a damsel in distress, but Sid does not find that damsel distressed at all. She mentions vanishing into nothing once she is free after Sid asks her what she'll do. Everyone with Alpha enters Oliver's memories of the cult gathering orphan children and treating them as guinea pigs for their experimentations. Most of the children died, but only a handful of girls survived, which were labeled as the possessed ones. Sid and Aurora walk inside memory and come across a girl who looks like little Aurora. She says it must be a coincidence and tells Sid they need to end the memory to proceed. She then sits in front of the crying little girl, telling her crying won't change anything, and slaps her hard across the cheek. Sid calls it harsh, making Aurora accept it was her anyway. A glass breaks suddenly, probably signifying the end of this memory. Olivier was one of the children deemed compatible with Diablo's cells. The cult was performing experiments to induce the demon cells upon children. Nelson clenches his teeth at the truth being revealed by Alpha. Nelson tells everyone that it was to make someone powerful to fight the demon, but Alpha calls it an excuse. Alpha tells them that even though all this seems real, this may be half the truth since memories fade with time. In fairy tales, everyone knows Olivier got the task to kill Diablos once she matured, but in reality, she was given the job to extract more cells from Diablos. Nelson calls it all a lie, but goes ignored. Alpha continues that Olivier obeyed their orders thinking achieving them would mean peace for the world, but the cult seemed to have more on their minds. The memory vanishes, bringing them all to the battlefield where the cult tried to fight the demon. They used ancient artifacts to immobilize the left arm and extract its cells to create a little force. They managed to prepare some pills, which Alexia saw Xenon have back when abducted. Alpha tells them that this had strong side effects, which the cult didn't want, so they all moved to the next memory. The relic where the arm was stored by the cult was revealed, but the bigger reality unveiled was Nelson performing experiments in the past on the arm. He calls Alpha a low-life descendant of the possessed elf, But she is unbothered and proceeds to tell them about the pill they created that would grant them endless immortality. Alexia is surprised that immortality has been their aim. The elves make him spill out the name of the drug, the beads of Diablos. Alpha points out that the beads have two major flaws. One is that they need to be taken at regular intervals throughout life, once a year, and the second is that they can only be produced in the quantity of 12 per year. This is why the biggest organization of the cult, the Knights of Rounds, only contains 12 members and not a single more. This is why the cult still needs to perfect the beads. Nelson finally accepts being the 11th member of the Knights of Rounds, but before he can say anything else, Delta stabs him from behind and throws him down the height into the water. Epsilon tells her she wasn't supposed to do it yet, making Delta panic and apologize to Alpha. Alpha reminds him to be careful and always remember to be sure if her prey is dead. As if on cue, Nelson appears out of the water, breaking the memory and bringing some of them to an all-white area while the others are separated somewhere else. Alpha, Beta, Delta, Alexia, and Rose face Nelson, who makes multiple illusions of himself ready to give them a message to not mess with the cult and their sanctuary.